Both of Marcus's wrists shattered the second 18-month-old Sophie hit his arms. 3 floors, 30 feet of free fall. He caught her anyway. 8 months after failing to save his sister Lily, 14-year-old Marcus Chen finally got to someone in time. What he didn't know, 5 adults had walked past him bleeding on that sidewalk. A Hell's Angel named Reaper would be the one who stopped. And Marcus's broken hands would trigger the largest Hell's Angels mobilization in history. 300 motorcycles hunting a billion-dollar child trafficking ring that had made 137 children disappear. Subscribe now and comment where you're watching from, because this story will show you what happens when one invisible boy refuses to let another child fall, and an army of the most unlikely heroes decides that walking past isn't acceptable anymore. The scream came first. High-pitched, desperate, the kind that makes your stomach drop before your brain catches up. Marcus looked up from the cracked sidewalk where he'd been walking for the past 20 minutes, going nowhere in particular because nowhere was better than Bridgewater Youth Services. His hands were shoved deep in the pockets of a hoodie 2 sizes too big, and his sneakers, held together with duct tape, made soft squeaking sounds on the pavement. The scream came again, a woman's voice from somewhere above. "Sophie! Sophie, no!" Marcus's eyes tracked upward. 3rd-floor apartment window. Broken screen hanging at an angle. And there, balanced on the window ledge like a bird about to take flight, was a toddler. Maybe 18 months old, pink dress, bare feet, reaching for something only she could see. Time slowed down the way it always does before disaster. Marcus's brain did the math in half a second. 3 floors, approximately 30 feet, concrete landing below. A fall from that height would kill her instantly. 4 adults stood on the sidewalk within shouting distance. A businessman in a suit, phone pressed to his ear. 2 college students with backpacks. An elderly woman with a grocery cart. Marcus started running. "She's going to fall!" he screamed. "Somebody help!" The businessman glanced up, frowned, kept talking on his phone. The college students looked at each other, uncertain. The elderly woman squinted upward but didn't move, and the toddler leaned forward. Marcus ran harder, his lungs burned. The facility cough, 3 weeks of pneumonia they wouldn't treat because the nurse only worked weekdays, made his chest rattle with every breath. But he ran. Sophie tipped forward. The woman's scream became something inhuman. "No!" Marcus positioned himself directly below. No time to think about what he was doing. No time to calculate angles or velocity, or the fact that he weighed 93 pounds soaking wet and hadn't eaten a real meal in 2 days. He just knew one thing with absolute certainty. Not again. This time, he catches them. This time, the kid lives. Sophie fell. Marcus threw his arms up, braced his legs, and prayed. The impact was catastrophic. 30 pounds of falling toddler hit his outstretched arms with the force of a sledgehammer. He heard the crack before he felt the pain, both wrists snapping like dry branches. The sound was crisp, clean, final. But his arms didn't drop. His broken wrists held. His body absorbed the shock, knees buckling, back hitting the ground hard enough to knock the wind out of him. And Sophie was alive. Bruised, crying, terrified, but breathing. Marcus lay on the concrete, staring up at the sky, both arms still cradled around this child he'd never met, and the pain hit him like a freight train. White-hot agony shooting from his wrists up through his forearms. His vision blurred, his stomach lurched. But he didn't let go. "I got you," he whispered to Sophie through gritted teeth. "I got you. You're safe." Footsteps thundered. The mother, Amanda Torres, though Marcus didn't know her name yet, reached them first. She dropped to her knees, sobbing, reaching for her daughter. "Oh my God, Sophie, baby." Marcus released his grip. His hands wouldn't straighten. The wrists hung at angles that made Amanda gasp when she saw them. You caught her. Amanda couldn't finish the sentence. She gathered Sophie into her arms, checking for injuries with shaking hands. "You saved her. You saved my baby." Marcus tried to sit up, failed. The pain was too much. He rolled onto his side, cradling his destroyed wrists against his chest. And that's when the adrenaline wore off and reality crashed in. He was 14 years old, alone on a sidewalk in downtown Denver. Both wrists shattered. No phone to call for help. No family to come get him. And in approximately 4 hours, the facility would realize he'd left without permission and doctor. Vance would file another incident report documenting his escalating behavioral problems and inability to follow institutional guidelines. The businessman walked past without stopping, still on his phone. The college students approached, hesitated, then kept walking when they saw the blood starting to seep through Marcus's sleeves. The elderly woman shook her head sadly and pushed her grocery cart away. Amanda was still on her knees with Sophie, dialing 911, her voice frantic. "My daughter fell from the 3rd floor. There's a boy who caught her. His arms are broken. We need an ambulance." Marcus closed his eyes. The concrete was cold beneath his cheek. His breathing came in short, sharp gasps. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Lily's voice whispered the last thing she ever said to him. "You'll catch me, right, Marcus? You promised." But he hadn't caught Lily. 8 months ago, passenger seat of a drunk driver's car. He'd fallen asleep during the ride home from their cousin's birthday party, woken up to the sound of metal crunching, glass shattering, Lily screaming his name. By the time he got to her, she was already gone. 4 years old, gap-toothed smile, favorite color purple. Dead because her big brother had promised to watch her and failed. Marcus had spent every day since then trying to figure out how to live with that. And now, lying on this sidewalk with both wrists broken and a toddler alive because he'd been fast enough this time, he still didn't have an answer. The rumble of a motorcycle engine cut through the sound of traffic and Amanda's frantic phone call. Marcus opened his eyes. A man was parking a black Harley at the curb. 50-something, gray beard, leather cut with patches Marcus couldn't quite make out through his blurred vision. The man moved with the kind of controlled intensity that suggested military training, and when he cut the engine, the sudden silence felt heavy. He walked over, knelt down beside Marcus, didn't touch, didn't crowd, just positioned himself where Marcus could see him without having to move his head. "Hey, son." The voice was rough but gentle. "I'm James. People call me Reaper. I saw what you did. That was the bravest damn thing I've seen in 6 years." Marcus tried to speak, coughed instead, tasted blood. "Don't talk yet," Reaper said. "Ambulance is coming. I can hear the sirens. But I need to ask you something before they get here, and I need you to answer honestly. Can you do that?" Marcus nodded, barely. Reaper's eyes dropped to the ID badge clipped to Marcus's hoodie. It had flipped over during the fall, but the logo was visible. Bridgewater Youth Services, Denver, Colorado. Something changed in Reaper's expression. Subtle shift from concern to recognition to something harder. "You live at Bridgewater?" Another nod. "How long?" 8 months. Marcus's voice came out as a rasp. "You got family? Someone I can call?" "No." "Nobody?" Marcus met his eyes. "My sister died. My parents died before that. I have an uncle in Seattle, but the facility says he doesn't want me. Do you believe that? The question landed like a punch. Nobody had ever asked Marcus what he believed. They told him what was happening, told him where he was going, told him how he should feel about it. No, Marcus whispered. I don't. Reaper nodded slowly. What's your name, son? Marcus Chen. Marcus, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to remember it. You hearing me? Yes. You are not alone anymore. You understand? Whatever's happening at that facility, whatever they told you about your uncle, whatever they're planning, you're not facing it alone. I don't know you. You don't know me, but what you just did, throwing yourself under a falling child with no thought for yourself, that tells me everything I need to know about who you are. The sirens were getting louder. The ambulance is going to take you to Denver General, Reaper continued. They're going to set those wrists. They're going to call Bridgewater. And Dr. Vance, or whoever's running that place, is going to show up with a smile and a story about how worried they were when you left without permission. Marcus's chest tightened. How did you? Because I've seen it before. Reaper's jaw clenched. 6 years ago. Different facility, different city. Same pattern. My daughter Maya was 15 when she disappeared from a place just like Bridgewater. They told me she ran away, told me she was troubled, had issues with authority, probably wouldn't want to come home even if we found her. He paused, swallowed hard. We never found her. The ambulance pulled up. Paramedics jumped out, rushing over with a stretcher and medical bags. Amanda was still holding Sophie, still crying, trying to explain to the 911 operator what happened. Reaper leaned in closer, his voice dropping so only Marcus could hear. Before they take you, I need to know, are they planning to transfer you somewhere? Move you out of Bridgewater? Marcus's eyes widened. How are they? Yes. The word came out broken. Arizona. 5 days from now. Dr. Vance called it a specialized treatment placement. Said I'd get better therapeutic support there. But she wouldn't tell me where exactly. She wouldn't let me call my uncle. She said it was for my own good. Reaper's expression went stone cold. He pulled out his phone, stepped back as the paramedics reached Marcus, and made a call while they started working. Tank, it's Reaper. Pause. I need every brother within riding distance. Denver. My location. Right now. Another pause. We've got a Maya situation, and we've got 5 days to stop it. He hung up, looked at Marcus as the paramedics carefully splinted his broken wrists. We're not letting them take you, Reaper said quietly. I couldn't save my daughter, but I'll be damned if I'm going to walk past another kid who needs help. The paramedic, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes, asked Marcus his pain level on a scale of 1 to 10. 7, Marcus lied. It was a 9, edging toward 10, but he'd learned at Bridgewater that complaining about pain just got you labeled as attention-seeking. Honey, your wrists are compound fractures, the paramedic said gently. There's no shame in admitting it hurts. We're going to give you something for the pain, okay? Marcus nodded, felt tears burning behind his eyes, and hated himself for it. Reaper caught his gaze. Crying doesn't make you weak, Marcus. It makes you human. And after what you just did, you've earned the right to feel everything. They loaded him onto the stretcher. Amanda approached with Sophie, who'd stopped crying and was staring at Marcus with wide, curious eyes. I don't know your name, Amanda said, her voice shaking. But I'm Amanda Torres. this is Sophie, and you're a hero. You understand that? You're her hero." "I'm not a hero," Marcus said quietly. "I just didn't want her to die." "Why?" Amanda asked, not accusatory, genuinely trying to understand. "Why would you risk yourself for a stranger's child?" Marcus looked at Sophie, saw Lily's face superimposed over hers, saw 4 years of gap-toothed smiles and terrible knock-knock jokes and purple crayon drawings signed "Love Lily" in wobbly letters. "Because someone should have saved my sister," he said, "and I couldn't. So maybe if I save someone else's sister, it means Lily's death wasn't completely pointless." Amanda started crying again. She leaned down, kissed Marcus's forehead. "Thank you. Thank you for my daughter's life." The paramedics lifted the stretcher, started wheeling Marcus toward the ambulance. Reaper walked alongside. "I'm going to follow you to the hospital. I'll be there when they call Bridgewater. And I'm bringing friends." "Why are you helping me?" Marcus asked. "You don't even know me." Reaper was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. 6 years ago, someone walked past my daughter when she needed help. Someone saw something wrong and decided it wasn't their problem. Someone looked the other way while she disappeared into a system that treated her like inventory instead of a human being. He met Marcus's eyes. "I can't change what happened to Maya, but I can damn sure make sure it doesn't happen to you. So yeah, I'm helping. And so are 300 other people who understand what it means to protect the ones nobody else is willing to fight for." They loaded Marcus into the ambulance. As the doors started to close, he heard Reaper's motorcycle roar to life, felt the vibration of the engine. And for the first time in 8 months, Marcus Chen felt something other than alone. The paramedic administered pain medication through an IV. The world started to blur around the edges, softening. But before the drugs pulled him under completely, Marcus heard Amanda's voice outside the ambulance, talking to someone on the phone. "You won't believe what just happened. This kid, this 14-year-old boy, he caught Sophie when she fell from the 3rd floor. Broke both his wrists doing it. Just threw himself under her like it was the most natural thing in the world." Pause. "Yeah, I got his name. Marcus Chen. He's from some youth facility called Bridgewater." "Why? Do you know something about that place?" Another pause, longer this time. Then Amanda's voice changed, went cold, angry. "My cousin's daughter disappeared from a facility like that 2 years ago in Nevada. 14 years old. Transferred to what they called therapeutic foster care. We never heard from her again. The facility said she didn't want contact with family, said it was part of her treatment plan." Marcus tried to sit up, couldn't. The medication was pulling him down. "If Marcus is at Bridgewater," Amanda continued, "and they're planning to transfer him, we need to find out where. We need to stop it, because if it's anything like what happened to my cousin's daughter—" Her voice cracked. "We can't let them make another child disappear." The ambulance doors slammed shut. The sirens started wailing. And as consciousness slipped away, Marcus's last coherent thought was this. He'd saved Sophie. He'd finally been fast enough. But what Reaper said kept echoing in his mind. "We've got 5 days to stop it." Stop what? And why did Amanda's story about her cousin's daughter sound so familiar to what Dr. Vance had told him about his upcoming transfer to Arizona? The pieces were there, scattered like puzzle fragments he couldn't quite fit together. But somewhere in the medicated haze, Marcus knew with absolute certainty. He'd caught Sophie. But he was still falling, and the question nobody was asking was simple. Who was going to catch him? Marcus woke up to fluorescent lights and the smell of antiseptic. His wrists were encased in casts from knuckles to elbows, elevated on pillows, throbbing with a dull ache that the pain medication couldn't quite touch. A nurse stood beside his bed, checking vitals. She smiled when she saw his eyes open. "Welcome back, Marcus. You're at Denver General. The surgery went well. Both wrists are set and stabilized. You're going to need 8 to 12 weeks of healing, then physical therapy." Marcus tried to speak. His mouth was dry as sandpaper. The nurse held a straw to his lips. "Small sips." He drank. The water tasted like plastic and relief. "Where's Reaper?" Marcus asked. The nurse's eyebrows rose. "The gentleman on the motorcycle? He's in the waiting room, along with about 40 of his friends. Hospital security tried to limit visitors, but your social worker approved them as family support." "My social worker?" "Dr. Vance from Bridgewater Youth Services. She arrived 20 minutes ago. Very concerned about you. She's speaking with your doctor now about discharge planning and—" "No." The word came out sharp, panicked. "No, I can't go back there. Not yet. Not in 5 days. She's going to—" The nurse touched his shoulder gently. "Marcus, honey, calm down. Your heart rate just spiked. Whatever you're worried about, we can—" The door opened. Dr. Eleanor Vance walked in, and Marcus's stomach dropped. She was 56 years old, silver hair pulled back in a perfect bun, wearing a tailored navy suit and pearl earrings. She looked like someone's kind grandmother. She'd won the Governor's Award for Excellence in Child Welfare 3 years running, and Marcus knew with absolute certainty that she was the most dangerous person he'd ever met. "Marcus?" Her voice dripped with concern. "Oh, sweetheart, when we got the call that you'd left the facility without permission and then been injured, I was beside myself with worry." She approached the bed. Marcus pressed back against the pillows. "The nurse tells me you had a psychotic break and threw yourself in front of a vehicle," Dr. Vance continued smoothly. "Classic attention-seeking behavior, consistent with your diagnosis of oppositional defiant disorder and unresolved trauma response. Don't worry, dear. We'll adjust your medication protocol when you return to Bridgewater, and I've already contacted Dr. Harrison at the Arizona placement. They specialize in cases like yours." "I didn't throw myself in front of a vehicle," Marcus said, voice shaking. "I caught a little girl who fell from a window. Her mother was there. The paramedics saw it. I saved her." Dr. Vance's smile never wavered. "Of course you did, Marcus. And I'm sure in your mind that's exactly what happened. But the medical staff here has documented your delusional state, and given your history of fabricating stories for attention—" "I'm not delusional." Marcus looked at the nurse. "Ask Amanda Torres. Ask the paramedics. Ask anyone who was there." The nurse shifted uncomfortably. "Dr. Vance, the paramedics report does indicate—" "Thank you, but I have Marcus's complete psychiatric history," Dr. Vance interrupted. 8 months of documented behavioral escalation, refusal to comply with treatment, and increasingly elaborate attention-seeking narratives. This latest episode is simply an extension of that pattern. She turned back to Marcus. "We'll have you back at Bridgewater by this evening. You'll be comfortable in the medical wing until you're transferred to Arizona on—" The door banged open. Reaper walked in, followed by 3 men Marcus had never seen before. The nurse started to protest, but something about the way Reaper moved, controlled, purposeful, radiating barely restrained fury, made her step back. "Dr. Vance." Reaper's voice could have cut glass. "I'm James Morrison. I witnessed Marcus save a toddler's life approximately 3 hours ago. I watched him break both wrists catching a child who would have died on impact. and I'm real interested in hearing you explain how that's delusional behavior." Dr. Vance's expression flickered, just for a second. Then the professional mask slid back into place. "Mr. Morrison, I appreciate your concern, but Marcus is a ward of the state under my care. His medical and psychiatric treatment is confidential, and I'm not at liberty to discuss—" "Then don't discuss it with me." Reaper stepped aside. "Discuss it with Tank." The largest of the three men moved forward, 6'3", 250 pounds, gray beard, eyes that had seen combat and come back changed. He wore a leather cut with "President" embroidered on the front and "Hell's Angels Montana" across the back. "Robert Sullivan," Tank said, extending a hand Dr. Vance didn't shake. "I'm a retired Army Delta Force operator, and I've spent the last 15 years working with veteran support networks and child advocacy groups. I've also spent the last 2 hours making phone calls about Bridgewater Youth Services." Dr. Vance's smile tightened. "I don't know what you think you've discovered, Mr. Sullivan, but Bridgewater is a state-licensed facility with impeccable credentials and—" "16 children transferred in the last 18 months, Tank interrupted. "All to therapeutic foster placements, all with confidential addresses, all with restricted family contact during adjustment periods that never seem to end." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Those transfers are entirely within state guidelines," Dr. Vance said. "Therapeutic placements often require limited contact during—" "Where's Marcus's uncle?" Reaper asked quietly. Dr. Vance blinked. "I'm sorry?" "David Chen, Seattle, Washington. Marcus says you told him his uncle declined guardianship. I'd like to see the documentation." "That's confidential." "I'd also like to know why you're rushing Marcus to Arizona in 5 days, when standard transfer protocols require a minimum 30-day notice and family notification." Dr. Vance's jaw tightened. "Mr. Morrison, you have no legal standing to—" "Actually, I do." A woman stepped into the room, late 40s, sharp eyes, carrying a briefcase. "I'm Sarah Martinez. I'm a licensed trauma surgeon. I'm also a Hell's Angels member, and I just completed a medical examination of Marcus Chen that directly contradicts your version of events." She pulled out a tablet, turned it toward Dr. Vance. "Bilateral compound fractures of both radii and ulnae, consistent with high-impact force absorption. Bruising pattern across the chest and shoulders, consistent with catching a falling object, of approximately 25 to 30 pounds. No evidence of self-harm. No evidence of delusional behavior. Substantial evidence of prior neglect, including untreated pneumonia, malnutrition, and defensive bruising on both forearms consistent with restraint holds." Dr. Vance's professional mask cracked. "Those bruises are from normal behavioral intervention when Marcus became aggressive toward—" "Liar!" Marcus's voice cut through the room, quiet but absolute. "I've never been aggressive toward anyone at Bridgewater. I asked questions. I asked why my therapy sessions kept getting canceled. I asked why we only got 2 meals a day when the state pays for 3. I asked where the other kids went when they got transferred. And every time I asked, someone grabbed my arms and dragged me to the quiet room. The sensory regulation space is a therapeutic—" "It's a concrete box with a camera and no bathroom." Marcus's voice shook. "I was locked in there for 11 hours once because I asked if I could call my uncle." 11 hours, Dr. Vance. No water, no food. Just me and the red light blinking. The fourth man spoke for the first time. 50s, wire-rimmed glasses, the careful diction of someone who'd spent decades in professional environments. "David Klein," he said. "Former FBI profiler. 23 years in behavioral analysis. And I've just spent 90 minutes reviewing Marcus's facility records that were subpoenaed by a federal judge 30 minutes ago." Dr. Vance, 16 children, all transferred to addresses that don't appear in any state foster care database, all placed with families who have no licensing, no background checks, and no digital footprint. Those are private placements approved by whom? Tank stepped closer. Because according to the Colorado Department of Human Services, therapeutic foster placements require state approval, criminal background checks, home inspections, and regular monitoring. Yet none of these 16 addresses have any of that. Dr. Vance's hand moved toward her phone. Reaper caught her wrist, not rough, just firm. "Don't," he said quietly. "Don't make a call you can't take back." She jerked her hand away. "This is assault. I'm calling security and the police, and Marcus will be returned to Bridgewater immediately, and you will all be charged with..." "With what?" A fifth person entered. Male, late 50s, expensive suit, carrying credentials. "Special Agent Michael Torres, FBI Crimes Against Children Division. And before you call anyone, Dr. Vance, you should know that as of 17 minutes ago, Bridgewater Youth Services is under federal investigation for wire fraud, child endangerment, and possible human trafficking." The room went silent. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. Dr. Vance straightened. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Bridgewater is a fully accredited..." "Your facility receives $6,200 per month per child from the state of Colorado," Agent Torres said. "Yet your food budget runs approximately $400 per child per month. Your educational materials budget is non-existent, and your medical care budget shows a pattern of denied treatments and canceled appointments. Where's the other $5,800 going, Dr. Vance?" "Operational costs, facility maintenance, staff salaries." "Your brother Marcus Holloway owns 23 properties across 4 states," Agent Torres continued. "All purchased in the last 4 years, all in cash, all during the same period you've been transferring children to undocumented placements. Would you like to explain that coincidence?" Dr. Vance's face went from pale to crimson. "My brother's financial affairs are none of your..." "Your brother's financial affairs became federal business the moment we found 8 children living in his property in Nevada with no running water, no heat, and no adult supervision beyond a 22-year-old with a criminal record for drug trafficking." Marcus's breath caught. "You found them? You found the missing kids?" Agent Torres looked at him. "We found 8 so far. We're still looking for 6 more." "How did you..." Marcus couldn't finish the question. "Amanda Torres called me," Agent Torres said. "She's my sister. When she told me you were being transferred to Arizona in 5 days, and that you were from Bridgewater, I made some calls. Turns out the Bureau's been looking at facilities like yours for 18 months. We just needed someone on the inside willing to talk." He pulled a chair up to Marcus's bed. "I need you to tell me everything you know about Bridgewater. Every transfer you witnessed, every conversation you overheard, every time something felt wrong. Can you do that?" Marcus looked at Dr. Vance. She was staring at him with an expression he'd never seen before. Not the professional concern, not the disappointed authority figure. Just cold, calculating assessment. "If you say one word," she said quietly, "I will bury you in psychiatric evaluations and behavioral diagnoses so deep that no one will ever believe another thing you say. You'll spend the rest of your childhood in facilities that make Bridgewater look like a vacation. Do you understand me, Marcus?" Tank moved between them. "Touch him again with words or hands, and you'll discover what 300 bikers can do when someone threatens a kid under our protection." Dr. Vance smiled. Actually smiled. "You can't protect him from the system, Mr. Sullivan. I am the system. I have credentials, awards, professional relationships with every judge and social worker in this state. What do you have? Criminal records and motorcycles?" "We have the truth," Reaper said. "And we have something you'll never understand." "What's that?" "People who'll show up at 3 in the morning when a kid needs help. People who'll put their bodies between a child and the system trying to disappear them. People who don't walk past someone who's falling." He looked at Marcus. "Tell him everything. We've got you." Marcus took a breath. His wrists throbbed. His chest hurt. But Lily's voice in his head was quiet for the first time in 8 months. "Okay," he said. "Okay, I'll talk." Dr. Vance's expression went dead. "You'll regret this." "I already regret not talking sooner," Marcus said. "Maybe if I had, those 8 kids would have been found 6 months ago." Agent Torres pulled out a recording device. "Start from the beginning. When did you first notice children disappearing from Bridgewater?" Marcus closed his eyes, opened them, looked at Reaper, who nodded. 3 months after I arrived," Marcus said. "A girl named Sarah. She was 11. She had autism, nonverbal, but she was sweet, always humming this same song. One morning she was just gone. When I asked where she went, the staff said, 'Therapeutic placement, better equipped for her needs.'" "Did you believe that?" Agent Torres asked. "At first." Marcus's voice cracked. "But then I heard Dr. Vance on the phone 2 weeks later. She was talking to someone about payment schedules. She said, 'The Chen girl is settled. Monthly rate is $400 as discussed. Cash only, as always.' I didn't understand then. I thought maybe therapeutic families got paid to take difficult cases." "But you don't think that anymore?" Agent Torres prompted. "No. Because $400 a month isn't enough to care for a child with Sarah's needs. But it's plenty of profit if the state is still paying Bridgewater $6,200 for a child who isn't there anymore." Tank swore under his breath. Klein was writing notes. Doc stood by the door, arms crossed, watching Dr. Vance like she might bolt. "How many other transfers did you witness?" Agent Torres asked. 14. Over 8 months. All of them sudden. All of them kids who asked too many questions, or caused too much trouble, or had family members trying to make contact. "Tell me about your uncle." Marcus's throat tightened. "David Chen, my dad's younger brother. After my parents died 2 years ago and I went into the system, and then after Lily died 8 months ago, I was placed at Bridgewater. I asked to call Uncle David. Dr. Vance said she'd reach out to him. A week later, she told me he declined guardianship, said he wasn't equipped to handle my trauma and behavioral issues." "Did she show you any documentation?" "No. She said it was too painful for me to see the rejection in writing, that it would set back my healing." Agent Torres looked at Dr. Vance. "Did you ever contact David Chen?" She said nothing. "I'll take that as a no." He turned back to Marcus. "What about the Arizona transfer?" "She called me to her office 4 days ago, said they'd found a perfect placement for me. Specialized trauma treatment, experienced family, beautiful property. I asked where in Arizona. She said the address was confidential until transfer day for security reasons. I asked if I could call Uncle David to say goodbye. She said no outside contact until after the adjustment period." "How long is the adjustment period?" She didn't say, just that it was standard protocol. Agent Torres stood, looked at Dr. Vance. "You're under arrest for wire fraud, child endangerment, and conspiracy to commit human trafficking. You have the right to remain silent." "You have nothing," Dr. Vance interrupted. "Hearsay from a traumatized child with documented behavioral problems. No physical evidence, no financial records proving—" "We have your computer," Klein said quietly. "Seized under warrant 45 minutes ago, along with your office files, financial records, and phone logs. We also have your brother in custody in Nevada, and he's already asking about plea deals. Dr. Vance's mask shattered completely. What replaced it was something cold and reptilian. Those children were going to age out anyway, she said. Foster homes don't want teenagers. The system doesn't want them. I found them places to live, kept them fed and sheltered, and yes, I made money doing it. So what? At least they weren't on the streets. You kept 8 children in a house with no heat and no running water, Agent Torres said. You pocketed $5,000 per child per month while they starved, and you're about to do the same thing to Marcus. She looked at Marcus. You should have kept your mouth shut. You have no idea what you've done. I saved Sophie, Marcus said quietly. And now, maybe I saved 14 other kids too. That's what I've done. Federal agents entered the room. Dr. Vance was led out in handcuffs, still saying nothing, face blank as fresh paper. When the door closed, Marcus started shaking. Full body tremors he couldn't control. Doc moved to his bedside. Shock, completely normal. You're safe now, Marcus. You're safe. My uncle, Marcus whispered. Did she really never call him? Reaper pulled out his phone. Give me his number. I don't know it. It's in my file at Bridgewater. We'll get it. Tank was already dialing. Bishop, we need David Chen's contact information from Marcus's case file. How fast can you get it? A pause. Then Tank smiled. 30 minutes. Perfect. He hung up, looked at Marcus. We're going to find your uncle, and we're going to ask him one simple question. Did he refuse guardianship? What if he did? Marcus's voice broke. What if Dr. Vance was telling the truth about that one thing? Then we deal with it, Reaper said. But Marcus, I've been doing this work for 6 years. I've talked to hundreds of families who've lost kids in the system. And you know what I've never once heard? What? A family member who genuinely didn't want a child saying, I'm not equipped for their trauma. That's social worker language, case manager language. People who actually don't want a kid just say no. They don't explain. They don't justify. So you think? I think Dr. Vance never made the call. I think your uncle has been trying to find you for 8 months, and I think in about 30 minutes, we're going to prove it. Marcus closed his eyes, let himself believe it for just a second. When he opened them again, Amanda was standing in the doorway holding Sophie, who was bandaged but smiling. I heard what you did, Amanda said. Telling the FBI everything. My sister just called me. They found 8 children because of you, Marcus. Only 8, Marcus whispered. There's still 6 missing. Then we keep looking. She approached the bed. Sophie wants to say thank you. The toddler reached out, touched Marcus's cast with one small hand, and said in a voice like bells, Thank you. Marcus felt tears spilling down his face. Couldn't stop them. Didn't try. You're welcome, Sophie. You're so welcome. Tank's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his expression changed to something fierce and triumphant. We got him, Tank said. David Chen, lives in Seattle. And Marcus? He held out the phone. He wants to talk to you. Marcus's hands were shaking so hard Tank had to hold the phone for him, angling it so Marcus could hear. Marcus? Marcus, is that you? The voice on the other end cracked on his name. Deep, rough, familiar in a way that made Marcus's chest hurt. He hadn't heard Uncle David's voice since his parents' funeral 2 years ago. Hadn't let himself think about it because hoping hurt worse than forgetting. "It's me," Marcus whispered. Silence. Then the sound of someone trying not to cry and failing. "Oh, God. Oh, thank God. Marcus, I've been looking for you for 8 months. 8 months. I called Bridgewater 47 times. 47. Every time they told me you didn't want contact, that you'd specifically requested no communication with family during your therapeutic adjustment period. I hired a lawyer. He filed motions for guardianship, and they got buried in paperwork. I drove to Denver 3 times, and they wouldn't let me past the front desk." Marcus felt something break open in his chest. "She told me you didn't want me. She said you weren't equipped to handle my behavioral problems and trauma." "What?" David's voice went sharp. "Marcus, I've been trying to get you out of there since the day they placed you. The day after Lily's funeral, I told the social worker I wanted you with me in Seattle. She said there were procedures, evaluations, home studies. Every time I called for an update, they said it was in process. Then suddenly you were at Bridgewater and I couldn't reach you." "I thought—" Marcus couldn't finish. 8 months of thinking nobody wanted him. 8 months of being alone. And it had all been a lie. "I'm on my way," David said. "Right now. I'm getting in my car and I'll be there in 16 hours. Don't let them take you anywhere. Do you hear me? I'm coming." "Uncle David." Marcus's voice broke completely. "They were going to send me to Arizona in 5 days. Doctor." Vance said it was a therapeutic placement, but Agent Torres found kids living in houses with no water, and they were starving. And I know. The FBI agent called me. "Marcus, listen to me. You are never going back to Bridgewater. You are never going to Arizona. You're coming home with me. I don't care what paperwork I have to file or what judge I have to convince. You're my brother's son. Your family. And I'm not losing you." Tank took the phone back. "Mr. Chen, this is Robert Sullivan. I'm going to text you the address of where we're staying. Marcus will be with us until you get here, and I promise you he'll be safe. We've got 300 brothers who've made that their personal mission." 300? David's confusion was audible. "Hellsangels, sir. And before you worry, we're the good guys in this story. We'll explain when you get here. Just drive safe." Tank hung up, looked at Marcus. "Your uncle never gave up on you. Remember that." "Doctor." Vance lied about everything, but she couldn't make him stop trying. Marcus nodded, couldn't speak, still processing the fact that someone had been looking for him all along. Agent Torres was on his phone, pacing, talking in the clipped professional tone that meant serious federal business. He hung up and turned to the room. "We've got 4 more children located, 2 in Arizona, 1 in Nevada, 1 in New Mexico, all in properties owned by Marcus Holloway. That brings us to 12 found, 2 still missing." "Who are the 2?" Reaper asked, and something in his voice made Marcus look at him. The man's face had gone pale. Agent Torres checked his notes. "Jessica Ramirez, 15, transferred from Bridgewater 14 months ago. And Maya Morrison, 15, transferred from Cascade Youth Center in Portland 6 years ago." The room went dead silent. Reaper didn't move, didn't breathe, just stood there like someone had shot him and he hadn't fallen yet. "Maya Morrison," he said finally, voice empty. "Red hair, brown eyes, 5'4", scar on her left knee from falling off her bike when she was 7. Loved poetry. Wanted to be a veterinarian. That Maya Morrison?" "Yes," Agent Torres said quietly. "We have her in the transfer records from a facility in Portland. Same pattern as Bridgewater. Same company. Same... Where is she?" Reaper's voice could have cut diamonds. "Where's my daughter?" "We don't know yet. The records show she was transferred to a property in New Mexico, but when agents raided it this morning, it was empty. Neighbors said the residents cleared out 3 days ago. We're tracking them, but they knew you were coming." Klein's voice was grim. "Someone tipped them off." Agent Torres nodded. "We have a leak. Somewhere in the investigation, someone made a call. 4 properties were emptied before we could execute raids. We got the children at 8 locations, but 4 were cleaned out." "How many children?" Tank asked. "We're not sure. Property records and utility bills suggest anywhere from 6 to 10 individuals per location. If all 4 locations were occupied, we could be looking at 24 to 40 children still missing." Marcus felt sick. "Because I talked. Because I told you everything. Someone warned them, and now those kids—" "No." Reaper turned to him, and despite everything, his voice was gentle. "This is not on you. The leak came from inside the investigation, not from you. You saved the 12 we found. You gave us names, dates, patterns. Without you, we'd still be looking at Bridgewater thinking it was isolated neglect instead of trafficking. But Maya is still out there, which means she's still alive. 6 years I've been looking, Marcus. 6 years of dead ends and cold trails. Now I know she's alive, and I know who took her. That's more than I had this morning." Doc spoke up from her position by the door. "If they emptied 4 properties 3 days ago, they needed vehicles, trucks, moving companies. Someone saw something." "Already on it," Agent Torres said. "Local field offices are canvassing. We've got surveillance footage from 3 of the 4 locations. We're running plates, identifying vehicles, tracking routes." Tank's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his expression changed. "We've got something. Bishop just sent me financial records from Bridgewater's parent company. The organization owns 14 facilities across 6 states. Same pattern at all of them. Kids disappearing into therapeutic placements that don't exist." 14 facilities, Klein repeated. "If each one transferred even 10 children per year, that's 140 kids annually," Doc finished. "For how many years?" "Company was founded 8 years ago," Tank said, reading from his phone. "If we assume operations started small and scaled up, we could be looking at 400 to 600 missing children," Agent Torres said. "Maybe more." The number hung in the air like smoke from a funeral pyre. Marcus thought about Sarah, the girl who hummed, about the boy named Tyler who asked too many questions about his mom, about Jennifer who drew pictures of horses and cried at night, about all the faces he'd seen come and go from Bridgewater, all the empty beds, all the kids who disappeared and nobody looked for them because people like Dr. Vance convinced the world they were troubled and difficult and better off somewhere else. "We need more manpower," Reaper said. "FBI can't canvass 6 states fast enough. These kids could be moved across borders, hidden in rural properties, split up to make them harder to find." "What are you suggesting?" Agent Torres asked. "I'm suggesting you let the hellsangels help. We've got chapters in 43 states, thousands of members. We've got connections in communities law enforcement can't reach. We've got people who know how to find what's hidden because we've spent decades being what's hidden." "I can't officially authorize civilian involvement in a federal investigation," Agent Torres said carefully. Then he smiled. "But I can't stop concerned citizens from asking questions and reporting suspicious activity to appropriate authorities." Tank was already dialing. "I'm calling church. Emergency session. We're mobilizing everyone." Within 20 minutes, Marcus's hospital room had become a command center. Tank stood near the window, coordinating with chapter presidents across the western states. Doc and Klein were reviewing facility records, building profiles of likely transfer locations. Agent Torres was on a conference call with FBI field offices, and Reaper sat beside Marcus's bed, showing him photographs on his phone. "This is Maya," Reaper said quietly. "Sixth grade picture. Last photo I have of her before she disappeared." The girl in the photo had red hair pulled into a ponytail, brown eyes, a smile that looked like she was trying not to laugh at the photographer. She looked nothing like Lily, but something about her expression reminded Marcus of his sister anyway. "She looks happy," Marcus said. "She was. Smart as hell, too. Tested into advanced programs, won science fairs, could debate anyone into the ground and make them thank her for it." Reaper's voice roughened. "Then my wife, Linda, got cancer. Stage 4. We spent 8 months watching her die, and Maya couldn't handle it. Started acting out, skipping school, getting in fights. Not because she was bad, because she was 14 and watching her mother die, and nobody taught her how to process that kind of pain." "What happened?" "Linda died on a Tuesday. That Friday, Maya stole my car. Made it 6 blocks before she crashed into a mailbox." Nobody was hurt, but the court decided she needed intervention. Placed her in temporary foster care while I got evaluated for fitness as a single parent. Foster family couldn't handle her grief, sent her to Cascade Youth Center for therapeutic support. I visited every day for 2 weeks. Then one day I showed up, and they told me she'd been transferred. Said it was better for her treatment. Said she'd contact me when she was ready. Reaper's hands clenched into fists. I believed them. For 3 weeks, I believed them. Thought she needed space. Thought I'd failed her so badly she didn't want to see me. Then I got a letter, handwritten, smuggled out by another kid who got released. 3 words. "Help me, Dad." Marcus's throat closed up. "Did you go to the police?" "Of course. They investigated. Cascade said the letter was Maya manipulating me, that she had a pattern of lying for attention, that the therapeutic placement was in her best interest. They showed documentation, psychiatric evaluations, treatment plans. Everything looked legitimate. Everything was a lie." "How did you know?" "Because I know my daughter. She's a lot of things, but she's not a liar." So I kept digging. Found other families with the same story. Kids transferred to therapeutic placements and never heard from again. Started connecting dots. Started finding patterns. Started investigating facilities across the Northwest. And 6 years later, I still haven't found her. He looked at Marcus. "Until today. Until you broke your wrists saving Sophie and told the truth, even when it was terrifying. You gave me the first real lead I've had in 6 years. So when I say you saved lives today, Marcus, I mean it. You saved the 12 we found, and you might have just saved my daughter." Marcus wanted to believe that. Wanted to think Lily's death and Sophie's fall and his shattered wrists all added up to something meaningful. "What if we don't find her in time?" he asked. "What if they move her again, or hide her, or—" "Then we keep looking." Reaper's voice was steel. "We don't stop. We don't give up. That's what you do when you love someone. You keep showing up even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when everyone tells you to let go." Tank hung up his phone. "We've got mobilization. Wyoming chapter's already rolling, 103 members. New Mexico chapter's activating, 89 members. Utah, Colorado, Montana, Arizona chapters all confirmed. We're looking at 387 motorcycles converging on Denver by tomorrow morning." "What's the plan?" Doc asked. "We divide into teams. Each team takes a property from the list of suspected locations. We don't raid, we don't confront. We just observe and report. If we see children, we call FBI. If we see suspicious activity, we document and call FBI. We become eyes and ears across 6 states. Agent Torres looked up from his phone. I can't officially condone this. You don't have to, Tank said. We're private citizens, exercising our First Amendment right to peaceful assembly and our civic duty to report suspected crimes. We're not breaking any laws. You're also not stopping, even if I tell you to, are you? Tank smiled. Not even a little bit. Klein pulled up a map on his tablet. We've identified 42 properties owned by Marcus Holloway or connected shell companies. 8 have been raided and cleared. 4 were emptied before raids. That leaves 30 potentially active locations. 30 properties, Reaper said. Potentially 6 to 10 children per location. We could be looking at 180 to 300 kids. Marcus felt dizzy. How do we find them all? Same way you saved Sophie, Tank said. One at a time. We don't try to save everyone at once. We find one kid, we get them safe, then we find the next one. Doc's phone rang. She answered, listened, her expression darkening. When? How many? Pause. We're on our way. She hung up. That was a contact in Albuquerque. Local police just responded to a noise complaint at a property on our watch list. Officers found 9 children locked in a basement, ages 6 to 15, malnourished, showing signs of long-term neglect. One of them had this. She held up her phone. The photo showed a piece of paper with child's handwriting. My name is Maya Morrison. My father is James Morrison in Denver. Please help me. I've been here for 6 years. Reaper's breath stopped. That's her handwriting. I'd know it anywhere. The child who had it said a girl gave it to her 3 months ago, Doc continued. Said the girl told her to hide it and give it to police if they ever came. Then the girl was transferred to another location. The child doesn't know where. But she was alive 3 months ago, Reaper said. She was alive and still fighting. Tank gripped his shoulder. Then we fight too. We find every property, check every location, ask every question until we find her. Agent Torres was already coordinating with Albuquerque field office. I'm sending agents to interview the 9 children, see if any of them know where Maya was transferred. Marcus watched Reaper, saw the way hope and fear were tearing him apart. 6 years of searching. 6 years of not knowing. And now he knew his daughter had been alive 3 months ago, still trying to get home, still believing someone would come for her. We're going to find her, Marcus said. Not a question, a promise. Reaper looked at him. I couldn't save you from Bridgewater because I didn't know you needed saving. But you saved yourself by telling the truth. Now we're going to save every other kid who's still waiting for someone to believe them. Tank's phone buzzed again. He read the message and his expression went hard. Bishop found something in the financial records. Wire transfers from Holloway's accounts to an offshore corporation in the Cayman Islands. Monthly deposits ranging from $50,000 to $70,000, dating back 6 years. Money laundering, Klein said immediately. They're not just trafficking children for labor or exploitation. They're running a full-scale criminal enterprise. Which means they have resources, Agent Torres said grimly. Resources to move fast, hide deep, and fight back if cornered. So do we, Tank said. 387 motorcycles, brother. We've got resources too. Doc was scrolling through facility records. I found something else. Cascade Youth Center in Portland, where Maya was originally taken, it's owned by the same parent company as Bridgewater. So are the other 12 facilities. And the CEO is Dr. Eleanor Vance, Klein finished. She's not just Bridgewater's director. She owns the entire network. Marcus felt cold. How much money has she made? Klein did the math silently. 6 states, 14 facilities, average 40 children per facility. If each child generates approximately $5,000 per month in profit after expenses, we're looking at $1.1 million monthly, Doc said quietly. $13.2 million annually. For 8 years. Over $100 million, Agent Torres said. She's been running a $100 million trafficking operation disguised as child welfare. The number was too big to process. Marcus thought about the cold meals at Bridgewater, the broken heater in winter, the medical appointments that never happened. Thought about Dr. Vance's pearl earrings and tailored suits, and the way she smiled while children starved. What happens to her now? Marcus asked. Federal prosecution, Agent Torres said. Multiple counts of wire fraud, human trafficking, child endangerment, money laundering, conspiracy. She's looking at 25 to 30 years minimum. That's not enough, Reaper said quietly. It's what we have. But Marcus? Agent Torres looked at him. Your testimony is going to be critical. You're the first child from inside the system willing to speak on record. With your statement and the evidence we're gathering, we can build a case that brings down the entire network. What if I'm not the only one? Marcus said. What if the 12 kids you found will talk too? What if we find the other ones and they tell their stories? It's not just my testimony. It's hundreds of kids saying the same thing. Agent Torres smiled grimly. Then we don't just shut down one facility. We shut down an industry. Tank's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his whole face changed. Say that again. Long pause. You're sure? Another pause. We're on our way. He hung up, looked at Reaper. Montana chapter just got a call from a truck stop attendant in Wyoming. Said a white van pulled in 2 hours ago. 11 people inside, including 8 children. Kids looked scared. Woman driving matched the description of someone on our watch list. Attendant got the license plate. Is it them? Reaper asked. Bishop's running the plate now. But, brother? Tank's voice went soft. One of the children had red hair. Reaper didn't wait for permission. He was out the door before Tank finished the sentence, moving with the kind of focused intensity that made everyone else step aside. Marcus tried to sit up, gasping from the pain in his wrists. Where are you going? Doc asked, already knowing the answer. Wyoming, Reaper called back. That's my daughter. You don't know that for sure, Agent Torres said, following him into the hallway. Red hair doesn't confirm identity. Could be any child. Could be a false lead. Reaper spun around. You have children, Agent Torres? 2 daughters. Then imagine one of them missing for 6 years. 6 years of not knowing if they're alive or dead, hurt or safe, calling for you while you can't hear them. Now imagine someone tells you they might be 2 hours away in a truck stop in Wyoming. You telling me you'd wait for DNA confirmation before you got in your car? Agent Torres held his gaze for 3 seconds. Then he pulled out his phone. I'll coordinate with Wyoming Highway Patrol. They can intercept the van, detain the driver, secure the children until we arrive. How long will that take? 30 to 45 minutes for patrol to reach the truck stop. Depends on current positioning. That van could be gone in 10 minutes, Tank said, joining them in the hallway. We need faster response. Wyoming chapter is already rolling, Doc said, holding up her phone. Chapter president is 15 minutes from that truck stop. He's got 12 brothers with him. They can get eyes on the van, keep it there until authorities arrive. Agent Torres hesitated. If civilians approach a vehicle potentially involved in human trafficking, we're not approaching, Tank interrupted. We're observing, witnessing, making our presence known so that van driver thinks twice about leaving before police arrive. That's not illegal, Agent Torres. That's concerned citizens acting on suspicious activity. Marcus watched the exchange, his heart hammering against his ribs. Maya Morrison had been missing for 6 years. 6 years of Reaper searching, hoping, breaking himself against dead ends and closed doors. And now she might be 15 minutes away. "I'm coming," Marcus said. Everyone turned to look at him. "Marcus, you can't," Doc said gently. "You just had surgery. Both wrists are broken. You need to stay here and—" "Maya's been trapped for 6 years because nobody believed she needed help," Marcus interrupted. "I was almost the next one. If she's really in that van, she needs to see someone who understands what she survived. Not just police and agents and adults asking questions. Someone who knows." Reaper studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Get him discharged. I'll bring the car around." Doc started to protest, but Tank put a hand on her shoulder. "Let him go. Some things matter more than hospital protocol." 20 minutes later, Marcus was in the back of Tank's SUV, discharge papers hastily signed against medical advice, both arms still in casts and throbbing with every heartbeat. Reaper drove while Tank coordinated on the phone with Wyoming chapter, and Agent Torres followed in a federal vehicle with Klein and 2 other agents. The drive to Wyoming was supposed to take 2 hours. Reaper made it in 90 minutes. Marcus watched the landscape blur past, tried not to think about what they'd find when they arrived, tried not to think about Lily, tried not to think about the fact that he'd broken his wrists saving one child and might not be able to help save another. "Talk to me, son," Reaper said, eyes on the road. "I can hear you thinking from here." "What if it's not her?" Marcus asked. "What if it's another kid and you get your hopes up and—" "Then it's another kid who needs help," Reaper said simply. "And we help them. Maya or not, there are 8 children in that van who deserve to be safe. If one of them is my daughter, that's—" His voice cracked. "That's everything. But if it's not, we still saved 8 kids. That still matters." Tank's phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression hardening. "How many?" Pause. "God damn it. Okay, keep eyes on them. We're 20 minutes out." He hung up. Wyoming chapter reached the truck stop. The white van is still there, parked near the diesel pumps. "But there's a problem." "What kind of problem?" Reaper asked, hands tightening on the steering wheel. "There are 2 adults with the children now. 1 woman matching our description, and 1 man who just arrived in a separate vehicle." Large male, 6 foot plus, wearing body armor under his jacket. Our brothers spotted a firearm when he reached for his wallet. Marcus felt ice in his stomach. "They're not going to let those kids go without a fight." "Wyoming Highway Patrol is 7 minutes out," Tank said. "FBI is coordinating. Nobody's approaching that van until we have tactical support." 7 minutes is enough time to load those kids and run, Reaper said. "Which is why our brothers are positioned at every exit," Tank replied. "Van tries to leave, they'll have to go through 12 motorcycles blocking the way. Not aggressive, not confrontational. Just there. Unmovable." The next 7 minutes felt like 7 hours. Marcus watched Reaper's hands on the wheel, knuckles white, jaw clenched so tight it looked painful. This was the moment 6 years of searching had been building toward. 6 years of false leads and dead ends and grief that never got smaller, only heavier. They pulled into the truck stop and Marcus saw the scene immediately. White van parked at pump 6, surrounded by a loose semicircle of motorcycles positioned just far enough away to be legal, but close enough to be impossible to ignore. 12 hellsangels, leather cuts and stone faces, standing beside their bikes like sentinels. The woman by the van was mid-40s, thin, nervous energy radiating off her in waves. The man beside her was exactly as Tank described, large, armed, scanning the bikers with the kind of alertness that suggested military or security background. Wyoming Highway Patrol vehicles pulled in from 3 directions, lights flashing, officers exiting with hands near weapons. Agent Torres arrived 30 seconds later, already holding up FBI credentials as he approached the van. FBI, step away from the vehicle. Hands where I can see them. The woman's hands shot up. The man's moved slower, calculated, keeping them visible but not quite compliant.
On what grounds? The man asked, voice flat, professional.
We're traveling with family members. Children are secured in appropriate car seats. We haven't violated any traffic laws. We have reason to believe those children are victims of human trafficking, Agent Torres said. I'm going to need you to step away from the van while we verify their well-being and identity. You have a warrant? I have probable cause. Step away from the vehicle, or I'll have you removed. The man didn't move. These children are in my legal custody. Therapeutic placement through licensed family services. I have documentation. Then you won't mind showing me that documentation while we verify the children's welfare. Marcus was already moving. He couldn't help it. Couldn't stay in Tank's SUV while 8 kids sat trapped in a van with adults who'd bought them like merchandise. His casts made him clumsy, but he got the door open, stumbled out, started walking toward the van.
Marcus, wait!
Tank called after him. But Marcus didn't wait. Couldn't wait. Because through the van's tinted windows he could see small faces pressed against glass, and one of them had red hair. He walked right past Agent Torres, past the armed man, past the nervous woman, and put his hands, both casts, against the van window. I'm Marcus, he said, loud enough for the children inside to hear. I was at Bridgewater Youth Services. Dr. Vance told me I was going to therapeutic placement in Arizona. But it was a lie. These people aren't your family. They bought you. And we're here to take you home. The van door slid open from the inside. A girl appeared in the opening, maybe 16, dark hair, fierce eyes. She was holding a younger child's hand. Prove it, she said. Prove you're not just more adults with better lies. Marcus held up his casts. I broke both wrists yesterday catching a little girl who fell from a window. Her name is Sophie Torres. The FBI found 12 kids from facilities like Bridgewater living in houses with no water and no heat. Dr. Eleanor Vance is in federal custody for human trafficking, and if you're Maya Morrison... He looked past her to the red-haired girl huddled in the back of the van. Your father has been looking for you for 6 years. He's standing right behind me, and he's never stopped believing you were alive. The red-haired girl's head came up slowly. She looked past Marcus, past Agent Torres, and locked eyes with Reaper. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Dad? Her voice was small, broken, hopeful and terrified in equal measure. Reaper's face crumpled. Maya. Oh God, Maya, it's you. It's really you. She started crying, sobbing. 6 years of grief and fear and surviving spilling out all at once. You came, she whispered. You came. I knew you would. I knew you wouldn't stop looking. She scrambled out of the van, stumbling, and Reaper caught her, pulled her into his arms, and held on like he'd never let go again. I've got you, he said, voice breaking. I've got you, baby girl. You're safe. You're safe now. The other 7 children started climbing out of the van, ages ranging from 8 to 15, all of them thin, all of them scared, all of them looking at the hellsangels and FBI agents like they couldn't quite believe this was real. The armed man tried to get in his vehicle. Tank stepped in front of him. Where do you think you're going? I'm leaving. Those kids are consenting to go with you. That's their choice. I'm not part of this. You accepted money to house trafficked children, Tank said quietly. You knew what you were doing. You're not leaving. The man's hand moved toward his waistband. 4 Wyoming Highway Patrol officers drew weapons simultaneously. "Don't," one officer said. "Hands up, now." The man calculated odds, decided against suicide, raised his hands.
The woman was already crying, already talking.
"I didn't know. I swear I didn't know they were trafficked. The agency said they were therapeutic placements, that the families couldn't handle them, that we were helping. They paid cash, but I thought—"
"You thought cash payments for undocumented children was legitimate?" Klein asked, appearing beside her with handcuffs. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit human trafficking, child endangerment, and accessory to kidnapping." She kept talking as Klein cuffed her.
"There are more houses, more children. I can tell you where. I can tell you everything. Please, I have kids of my own. I can't go to prison."
"You should have thought about that before you caged someone else's children for money," Tank said. Agent Torres was on his phone coordinating locations. "We need immediate response teams to 6 addresses. I'm texting coordinates now. Assume armed security at each location. Assume multiple children per property."
Doc was already examining the children from the van, checking for injuries, dehydration, signs of abuse. Maya wouldn't let go of Reaper's hand, kept touching his face like she needed to confirm he was real.
"I wrote letters,"
Maya said between sobs.
"So many letters. I gave them to kids who got moved, told them to mail them if they got out. Did you get any of them?"
"1," Reaper said. 3 weeks after you disappeared. 3 words. "Help me, Dad." That's all I needed. I've been looking ever since.
"I knew you would. Even when they told me you weren't looking anymore, that you'd moved on, started a new family, I knew they were lying. You wouldn't give up on me."
"Never," Reaper said fiercely. "Not in 6 years, not in 60. You're my daughter. Nothing changes that." Marcus watched them, felt something aching in his chest. Uncle David was driving 16 hours to get to him. 16 hours of mountain roads and highway, probably breaking every speed limit, because family didn't give up. Family showed up. One of the younger children from the van approached Marcus shyly. A boy, maybe 9 years old, Asian features, clutching a stuffed rabbit with one ear missing.
"Are you really from Bridgewater?"
The boy asked. "I was, for 8 months."
"Do you know Tyler Kim? He was my brother. He was at Bridgewater before they transferred him last year. They said he went to therapeutic placement in Nevada. Said I couldn't talk to him because he needed to adjust."
Marcus's throat closed. "What's your name?"
"Danny Kim."
"Danny, I'm going to help you find your brother, okay? The FBI is raiding houses right now. If Tyler's in one of them, they'll find him."
"What if he's not? What if they moved him again, or he's somewhere else, or—"
"Then we keep looking," Marcus said, echoing Reaper's words. "We don't stop until we find him." Tank's phone rang again. He listened, and his expression changed to something Marcus couldn't read. 2 more locations raided successfully, Tank announced. 17 children recovered total. But there's something else. "What?" Agent Torres asked. One of the properties in New Mexico had a file room. Physical records dating back 8 years. Names, photos, transfer dates for every child who went through the system. "How many names?" Tank's jaw tightened. 463 children, over 8 years. Some returned to families after investigation, some aged out. But there are 137 currently unaccounted for. The number hit like a physical blow. Marcus thought about Sarah, who hummed, about Jennifer, who drew horses, about all the empty beds at Bridgewater. Multiplied across 14 facilities and 8 years. "We're going to need every available agent," Agent Torres said, already dialing. And we're going to need help from every field office in 6 states.
You've got it, Tank said. 387 motorcycles, remember? We can put eyes on every property, every address, every lead faster than FBI can coordinate response teams.
I can't officially authorize. You don't have to. We're already moving. Agent Torres looked at the 8 children from the van, now sitting in patrol cars wrapped in blankets, drinking water, beginning the long process of processing trauma. Looked at Maya clinging to her father. Looked at Marcus with his shattered wrists standing there like a broken lighthouse, still sending out signals.
Do it,
Agent Torres said.
Find them. All of them. And when you do, you call me immediately. We do this by the book from here forward, but we do it fast.
Klein approached Marcus. The woman who was driving the van just gave us 12 more addresses, properties we didn't know about. She's trading information for leniency. Will she get it? Marcus asked. That's up to prosecutors and judges.
But every address she gives us is potentially 6 to 8 children saved.
So we take the deal, and we move fast before anyone else gets tipped off. Doc finished her examination of the children.
They're dehydrated and malnourished, but stable. No signs of sexual abuse, mostly neglect and emotional trauma. They'll need medical workups, therapy, family reunification where possible.
What about the ones who don't have family? Danny Kim asked. He'd been listening, still clutching his rabbit.
What happens to us?
Maya spoke up.
You fight. You tell your story. You make sure everyone knows what was done to you, and you don't let them forget. That's how we make sure this never happens to anyone else.
She looked at Marcus.
You saved those 12 kids by telling the truth. Now there's 137 more waiting for someone to do the same thing.
Tank's phone buzzed with incoming messages. Wyoming chapter just intercepted another vehicle at the Montana border. 6 children inside. Raid in Nevada found 8 more. New Mexico team found 11. We're up to 42 children recovered total.
That's 42 out of 137,
Agent Torres said.
We've got 95 still missing.
Then we keep going, Reaper said, still holding Maya's hand. Every single one matters. Every single child deserves what Maya just got. Someone who doesn't stop looking. Marcus felt exhaustion crashing over him. His wrists were screaming. His body was running on adrenaline and pain medication, and the desperate need to see this through. But he couldn't stop. Not while 95 children were still out there. I want to help, he said. I know their faces. I know how they think. I know what it feels like to be in that van, thinking nobody's coming. Let me help find them. You need rest, Doc said gently. Marcus, you've done enough. You saved Sophie. You exposed Bridgewater. You gave testimony that started this whole investigation.
Nobody expects you to.
I expect me to, Marcus interrupted. Lily died because I fell asleep. I can't save her, but I can save the 95 kids still trapped. I can stay awake for them. Tank looked at Agent Torres. Can he help with identification? Go through photos from the file room, identify children he recognizes from Bridgewater. Agent Torres considered it. That's not physically demanding. Might actually be useful. Marcus, if we show you photos, can you tell us names, ages, any information you remember? Yes. Then let's get you somewhere comfortable and start going through files. They set up in the Truck Stops restaurant, cleared out by police. Klein spread photographs across tables, hundreds of faces staring up at them. Children who'd disappeared into a system designed to make them invisible. Marcus started identifying them. Sarah Chen, 11 years old, nonverbal autism, transferred 14 months ago. Last I saw her, she was humming Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. He pointed to another photo. Tyler Kim, Danny's brother, 13, transferred to Nevada 11 months ago. He wanted to be a teacher. One by one, Marcus gave them names, gave them stories, gave them humanity instead of case numbers. And across 6 states, Hell's Angels were moving. Motorcycles converging on addresses, knocking on doors, asking questions, creating pressure. Not violent, not illegal, just present, unavoidable, forcing people to see what they'd been ignoring. By midnight, the count was 73 children recovered. By 2 a.m., 91. By dawn, 112. Marcus kept working through the night, identifying faces, providing details, fighting exhaustion and pain, because stopping meant giving up. And he'd promised himself no more kids would disappear while he had breath to speak their names. At 6:47 a.m., Tank's phone rang one more time. He listened, smiled, looked at Marcus.
That's all of them. Every child from the file room has been located. 137 children safe. You did it, Marcus. We did it. Marcus's vision blurred. Couldn't tell if it was tears or exhaustion or both. All of them? Every single one. The restaurant erupted in cheers. Hell's Angels who'd been coordinating all night, FBI agents who'd been running raids, local police who'd been providing support, everyone who'd refused to walk past children who needed help. Maya hugged her father. Danny Kim got a call that his brother Tyler had been found in Nevada, safe, asking for him. One by one, families started arriving, started reuniting, started crying and holding on and refusing to let go. And Marcus sat there with his broken wrists and his exhausted body and thought about Lily, thought about how he couldn't save her, how he'd failed her, how he'd carried that weight for 8 months, thinking it would never get lighter. But maybe, he thought, maybe saving 137 other kids meant something. Maybe it meant Lily's death wasn't the end of the story. Maybe it meant her life still mattered, because it taught him that every second counts, and every child deserves someone who won't walk past them when they're falling. Reaper sat down beside him. Your uncle just called. He's 20 minutes out. Marcus nodded, couldn't speak past the lump in his throat. You did good, kid. Better than good. You changed the world for 137 families. That's a legacy most people never come close to. I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the bravest thing anyone can do. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. Marcus sat in the truck stop restaurant surrounded by reuniting families, watching Maya cling to her father, watching Danny Kim talk to his brother Tyler on speakerphone, watching 137 lives get stitched back together, piece by piece. And he waited. When the silver Honda Accord pulled into the parking lot, Marcus knew it was Uncle David before the man even got out of the car. Something about the way he moved, urgent but careful, like someone carrying hope and terror in equal measure. David Chen was 42 years old, shorter than Marcus remembered, hair graying at the temples. He wore jeans and a wrinkled button-down shirt that suggested he'd been driving for 16 hours straight without stopping. His eyes scanned the crowd of motorcycles and police vehicles and FBI agents, looking lost, until Tank stepped forward. Mr. Chen, I'm Robert Sullivan. We spoke on the phone. David barely glanced at him. Where's Marcus? Right here, Reaper said, stepping aside. Marcus stood up from the table, both arms in casts, face pale from exhaustion and pain, eyes red from crying and staying awake for 36 hours straight. Uncle David made a sound like someone had punched him in the stomach. Marcus. Oh, God, Marcus. He crossed the distance between them in 4 strides, stopped just short of touching because you could see the casts and didn't want to hurt him. His hands hovered in the air like he'd forgotten how to hug someone. "I'm sorry," David said, voice breaking. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I tried, I swear I tried. But they wouldn't let me through, and I should have tried harder. Should have broken down doors, should have—" "You never stopped looking," Marcus interrupted. "Dr. Vance told me you didn't want me, but you never stopped. That's what matters." David pulled him into the gentlest hug Marcus had felt in 2 years. Careful of the casts, careful of the bruises and exhaustion. Just presence and warmth and the kind of safety Marcus had forgotten existed. "You're coming home with me," David said. "To Seattle. Real home. Family home. And I don't care what paperwork I have to file or what judge I have to convince. You're not spending another night in the system." Agent Torres approached. "Mr. Chen, we'll need Marcus available for testimony in the federal case against Dr. Vance and the trafficking network. That will require—" "I'll bring him to every hearing, every deposition, every trial date," David said. "But he's sleeping in my house, in his own room, where he should have been 8 months ago. The court will need to approve emergency custody transfer." "Then let's go to court right now," David said. "I've got guardianship papers, character references, financial documentation, home study approval from when I first applied 8 months ago. Everything you need. What I don't have is one more day of patience for a system that lost my nephew." Tank put a hand on David's shoulder. "We've got lawyers standing by. Family court judge is already briefed on the situation. Emergency hearing is scheduled for 9 a.m. That's 2 hours from now. We'll have Marcus placed with you by noon." David looked at him. "Who are you people?" "We're the folks who showed up when nobody else did," Tank said simply. "And we're going to make sure Marcus gets home." The emergency custody hearing took place in a cramped courtroom in Wyoming, with a judge who'd been woken up at 6 a.m. and briefed on a child trafficking case that had recovered 137 children in 12 hours. Judge Patricia Morrison looked at the case file, looked at Marcus sitting beside his uncle with both arms in casts, looked at the 40 Hells Angels packed into the gallery wearing their cuts, and made a decision. "Mr. Chen, you filed for guardianship 8 months ago. According to these records, your petition was denied due to incomplete home study documentation. But I'm looking at the documentation right here. Complete. Dated 7 months ago. Filed with the appropriate court. Somehow lost in the system." David's jaw clenched. "I was told it never arrived." "I'm sure you were." Judge Morrison's voice was ice. "I'm also looking at psychiatric evaluations of Marcus from Bridgewater, claiming he has oppositional defiant disorder, attachment issues, and a history of fabricating stories for attention. Yet FBI reports indicate Marcus provided credible testimony that led to the rescue of 137 children. That doesn't sound like fabrication to me." She looked at Marcus. "Son, do you want to live with your uncle?" "Yes, ma'am." "Why?" Marcus thought about it. About Lily and Sophie and Sarah who hummed, and Maya who wrote letters for 6 years, and 137 children who survived because people stopped walking past them. "Because he showed up," Marcus said quietly. "He drove 16 hours because I needed him. He called 47 times when they wouldn't let him through. He never stopped trying. That's what family does. They show up." Judge Morrison signed the order. "Emergency custody granted. Marcus Chen is placed with David Chen, pending full adoption proceedings. Dr. Vance's psychiatric evaluations are hereby dismissed as fraudulent. And I'm issuing a formal complaint against every social worker, case manager, and court official who allowed this child to spend 8 months in hell when family was waiting for him." She banged the gavel. "We're done here. Take your nephew home, Mr. Chen." David's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me. Thank the kid who broke his wrists catching a stranger's baby and told the truth, even when it was terrifying. He saved himself. I'm just signing paperwork. They walked out of the courthouse into morning sunlight. Marcus felt like he hadn't seen the sun in 8 months. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe Bridgewater had been one long night, and he was only just waking up. Maya was waiting outside with Reaper. She'd showered, changed into clothes that actually fit, eaten real food for the first time in 6 years. She looked younger and older at the same time. Younger without the constant fear. Older from carrying survival for so long.
We're going home too, she told Marcus. Dad's house. My old room is exactly how I left it. He didn't change anything, just waited for me to come back.
What about the trial? Marcus asked. They're going to need you to testify.
I know, and I will. But Dr. Vance doesn't get one more day of my life before that. I've given her 6 years. She doesn't get another hour.
Agent Torres joined them. Dr. Vance's trial is scheduled for 6 weeks from now. Federal prosecutors are filing charges of wire fraud, human trafficking, child endangerment, money laundering, and conspiracy. They're asking for 30 years minimum. That's not enough, Reaper said. It's what we have, but with testimony from Marcus, Maya, and the 135 other children, we're building a case that will destroy her credibility and shut down every facility in her network.
What about the others? Marcus asked.
The people who worked for her. The ones who knew and stayed silent. The social workers who lost paperwork. The case managers who buried reports. We're investigating everyone, Agent Torres said. Every adult who knew or should have known. Every official who enabled this. Every person who walked past when they should have stopped. Klein approached, carrying a thick folder. Speaking of which, we found something in Dr. Vance's personal files you need to see. He opened the folder. Inside were letters. Hundreds of letters. Handwritten notes from children in her facilities. Letters addressed to parents, grandparents, siblings, friends. Letters that were never sent. Marcus recognized his own handwriting on one of them. A letter to Uncle David dated 3 months ago. Dear Uncle David, Marcus read aloud. Dr. Vance says you don't want me, but I don't believe her. I think she's lying. I think you're looking for me. If you get this letter somehow, I'm at Bridgewater Youth Services in Denver, room 14. I'm scared. Please come get me. Love, Marcus. His voice broke on the last word. David took the letter with shaking hands. She kept them, David said. All these children trying to reach their families, and she kept the letters like trophies. Evidence now, Klein said. Every letter is proof of systematic isolation and psychological abuse. We're contacting every family, making sure they know their children tried to reach them. Marcus thought about all those letters, all those children writing words into the void, hoping someone would hear. All those families searching without knowing their kids were calling for them. How many letters? He asked. 1,143, Klein said quietly. Over 8 years. From 463 different children. The number was suffocating. Marcus felt rage building in his chest, hot and righteous and overwhelming. I want to testify, he said. Not just about Bridgewater, about all of it. About every lie she told, every letter she kept, every child she disappeared. I want to stand in that courtroom and make sure everyone knows exactly what she did. Marcus, you're 14, David said gently. You don't have to carry this. You can let the FBI handle. No. Marcus's voice was steel. Those 137 kids are safe because I told the truth when it was hard.
but there are 463 kids total who went through this system. 463 stories that need to be heard. If I don't speak for them, who will? Maya touched his shoulder. We speak together, all of us who survived. We tell our stories, and we don't stop until everyone understands what was stolen from us.
6 weeks later, Marcus stood in federal court wearing a suit Uncle David had bought him for the occasion. His wrists were healing, down to removable braces now instead of full casts.
He could write again, could hold things, could use his hands to catch someone if they fell. Dr. Eleanor Vance sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, looking smaller than she had at Bridgewater. Without her tailored suits and pearl earrings and professional authority, she was just a woman who'd built an empire on children's suffering. The prosecutor called Marcus to the stand. Please state your name for the record. Marcus James Chen. How old are you, Marcus? 14. And where do you currently live? Seattle, Washington, with my Uncle David Chen. He adopted me 5 weeks ago. Marcus looked at David in the gallery, sitting between Tank and Reaper. His family. Chosen and blood, and bound by showing up when it mattered. The prosecutor approached the witness stand. Marcus, can you tell the court about your time at Bridgewater Youth Services? Marcus took a breath, looked at Dr. Vance. She was staring at him with those cold, calculating eyes, trying to intimidate him into silence even now. He looked away, looked at the jury instead. 12 people who would decide her fate. I was placed at Bridgewater 8 months ago after my 4-year-old sister Lily died in a car accident. I was told it was temporary. I was told they'd help me process my trauma. I was told my uncle couldn't take me because he wasn't equipped for my behavioral issues. He pulled out the letter Klein had found. This is a letter I wrote to my uncle 3 months ago, begging him to come get me. Dr. Vance never sent it. She kept it in her office, along with 1,142 other letters from children trying to reach their families. The prosecutor entered the letter into evidence. What else did Dr. Vance tell you? She told me 16 children were transferred to therapeutic placements for better care. She told me it was for their own good. She told me I'd be transferred to Arizona for specialized treatment. What she didn't tell me was that those children were being sold to unlicensed adults for $400 a month, while she kept billing the state $6,200. She didn't tell me she was trafficking us like inventory. Objection, Dr. Vance's lawyer said. Characterization. Overruled, the judge said. The witness may describe his experience. Marcus continued. I caught a little girl named Sophie who fell from a 3rd-floor window. Broke both my wrists doing it. When Dr. Vance came to the hospital, she told the staff I'd thrown myself in front of a vehicle in a suicide attempt. She told them I was delusional. She tried to have me sent back to Bridgewater so I could be transferred to Arizona on schedule, because I was worth $5,000 a month profit to her. And if I disappeared into the system like the 16 kids before me, nobody would have looked for me. He met Dr. Vance's eyes. Except my uncle did look, for 8 months. And when he found me, I wasn't alone. I had 300 hellsangels, FBI agents, and 137 other survivors standing with me. You couldn't make us invisible anymore. The prosecution rested after 3 days of testimony from Marcus, Maya, and 15 other survivors. Each one told the same story with different details. Isolation, neglect, psychological manipulation. Children treated like commodities. The defense tried to argue that Dr. Vance had been deceived by her brother Marcus Holloway, that she truly believed the therapeutic placements were legitimate. But the letters destroyed that defense.
1,143 pieces of evidence proving she knew exactly what she was doing. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, returned with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Dr. Vance didn't cry, didn't show emotion, just sat there like someone had unplugged her. The judge sentenced her to 32 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years. You were entrusted with the most vulnerable population in our society, the judge said. You exploited them for profit. You treated children like merchandise. You destroyed families and stole years that can never be returned. This court shows you the same mercy you showed them. None. Marcus watched her being led away in chains and felt something release in his chest. Not quite peace, not quite closure, but something like justice. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing, questions shouting. Tank and Reaper formed a wall around Marcus and David, shielding them from the chaos. One reporter managed to get close enough to ask, "Marcus, what do you want people to know about what happened to you?" Marcus stopped, looked at the camera, thought about Sophie and Lily and Sarah, who hummed, and Maya, who wrote letters for 6 years, and 137 children who survived because someone finally listened. I want people to know that invisible doesn't mean gone, he said. There are children right now in systems that don't see them, in facilities that profit from their pain, in situations where adults are walking past because helping is uncomfortable or inconvenient or not their job. And I want those adults to understand something. He paused, made sure the camera was still rolling. The most qualified person to help is the person who's there. You don't need credentials or authority or permission. You just need to care enough to stop when you see someone falling. Because I was falling for 8 months, and 5 people walked past me before Reaper stopped. 5 people who could have changed my story sooner. Don't be the person who walks past. Be the person who stops. The press conference ended. Marcus and David got into Tank's SUV, started the drive back to Seattle. Maya and Reaper followed in their own car. A convoy of family, biological and chosen, heading home. 3 months later, Reaper established the Maya Foundation with funding from Hell's Angels chapters across the country. Mission statement simple: find missing children from institutional care, provide legal support for families fighting the system, make sure no child stays invisible. First-year results: 43 missing children located, 8 trafficking rings exposed, 19 facilities investigated, 72 families reunited. Marcus volunteered every weekend, helped identify children in photos, talked to survivors who needed someone who understood, spoke at schools about recognizing abuse and trusting instincts. He still had nightmares. Still woke up at 2 a.m. thinking about Lily, about Sophie falling, about the quiet room at Bridgewater. But Uncle David was always there, sitting with him in the dark, reminding him that surviving trauma wasn't the same as being defined by it. "You're not broken, Marcus," David would say. "You're healing. There's a difference." And slowly, day by day, Marcus started to believe it. His wrists healed completely, 98% mobility, slight tremor when he wrote, but nothing that stopped him. He'd caught Sophie. He'd saved himself. He'd testified against evil. His body remembered all of it, but it remembered surviving too. 1 year after catching Sophie, Marcus stood in Amanda Torres's backyard at Sophie's 3rd birthday party. The toddler ran up to him, grabbed his hand, pulled him toward the bounce house. Mark, come play!" She didn't remember falling, didn't remember Marcus catching her, didn't know she was the reason 137 children came home. But Marcus remembered, and watching her laugh, healthy and safe and loved, made every broken bone worth it.
Thank you,
Amanda said, appearing beside him with tears in her eyes.
for my daughter's life, for giving me 3 years I wouldn't have had, for everything.
You don't have to keep thanking me, Marcus said.
Yes, I do. Because you didn't have to catch her. 5 other people walked past, but you stopped. You sacrificed yourself for a stranger's child. That deserves thanks every single day.
Maya approached, now 16, working as a volunteer coordinator at the foundation. She'd testified at 6 more trials, helped locate 23 missing children, started writing a book about her experience.
We've got 3 new cases, she told Marcus. Children who disappeared from facilities in Oregon, parents looking for them. We think they might be connected to the same network.
Then let's find them, Marcus said. Because that's what they did now. Found the ones nobody else was looking for. Gave voice to the ones nobody wanted to hear. Refused to walk past suffering just because it was uncomfortable. The Marcus Chen Child Protection Act passed Congress 18 months after Dr. Vance's conviction. Mandatory GPS tracking for all children in state custody during transfers. Criminal background checks for all therapeutic foster homes. Children's advocates independent from facilities. Anonymous reporting hotlines. Federal database of missing children from institutional care updated weekly. Quarterly surprise inspections of all contracted facilities. Marcus attended the bill signing, shook hands with senators and representatives who called him a hero. But he didn't feel like a hero. Heroes were people who did extraordinary things. He'd just done what anyone should do. Refused to walk past someone who needed help. 5 years after catching Sophie, Marcus stood at his high school graduation. Valedictorian. Full scholarship to University of Washington. Planning to major in social work and law. Uncle David sat in the front row, crying. Reaper and Maya sat beside him. Tank and Doc flew in from Montana. Sophie and Amanda came. Sophie, now 7 years old, and insisting Marcus was her brother, even though biology disagreed. In his valedictorian speech, Marcus told the truth. 5 years ago, I broke both wrists catching a little girl who fell from a window. I didn't think about it, didn't calculate risk, just saw someone falling and couldn't walk past. That choice changed everything. Not because I'm special, because I was there. And being there, caring enough to act, is all it takes to change someone's entire life. He looked at the graduates. You're going to see people falling. Maybe not literally. Maybe it's a classmate struggling with depression, a neighbor in an abusive situation, a child being neglected, a friend spiraling into addiction. And you'll have a choice. Walk past because it's not your problem, or stop. Ask if they're okay. Make the call. Be inconvenient. Be uncomfortable. Be the reason someone survives. I couldn't save my sister Lily, but I saved Sophie. And because I saved Sophie, 137 other children came home. One choice, one moment of refusing to walk past. That's all it took. He paused. Let the weight of it settle. Don't wait for someone more qualified. Don't assume someone else will handle it. Be the person who stops. Be the person who shows up. Be the person who refuses to let another human being stay invisible. Because here's what I learned. The most qualified person to help is the person who's there. And every single one of you has the power to save a life just by giving a damn about someone else's pain. The auditorium erupted in applause. Standing ovation. 2,000 people on their feet. But Marcus only saw one face in the crowd. Uncle David, crying and proud and whole. Because family meant showing up, even when the system said no.
After the ceremony, reporters asked Marcus about his plans.
"I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing," he said simply. "Finding the invisible ones, giving them voices, making sure nobody else spends 8 months trapped in hell while adults walk past them. That's the work. That's the calling. And I'm not stopping until every child knows they matter enough to be seen." 10 years after catching Sophie, Marcus Chen Morrison stood in his office at the Maya Foundation as executive director. They'd located 643 missing children, shut down 72 trafficking operations, reunited 918 families, changed laws in 14 states. Maya worked beside him as director of survivor services. Reaper ran field operations. Tank coordinated chapter involvement. Doc handled medical advocacy. Uncle David managed legal support. A family built from broken pieces, held together by the simple truth that showing up matters more than credentials.
On the wall of Marcus's office hung 2 photographs in matching frames.
Lily Chen, 4 years old, gap-toothed smile. Sophie Torres, 18 months old, mid-fall, half a second before Marcus caught her. Between them hung a quote Marcus had written himself: "The most qualified person to help is the person who's there." Sophie visited sometimes, now 12 years old, volunteering at the foundation, telling everyone Marcus was her brother because biology mattered less than the moment someone caught you when you fell.
Do you ever regret it?
She asked one day. Breaking your wrists? Choosing to catch me? Marcus looked at the board showing their current cases. 43 children still missing. 43 families still searching. 43 reasons to keep showing up. "Not even once," he said. "You know why?"
Why?
"Because I couldn't save Lily, but I saved you. And saving you saved 137 others.
And those 137 grew up and saved more people.
And those people saved more. One choice, Sophie. One moment of not walking past. That's how you change the world." She hugged him.
I'm going to be like you when I grow up. I'm going to find the invisible ones.
"You already are like me," Marcus said. "You're here. You showed up. That's all it takes." That evening, Marcus drove to Lily's grave for the first time in 10 years. Brought flowers. Sat on the grass beside the headstone that read, "Lily Marie Chen. Forever for, forever loved." "I couldn't catch you," Marcus said quietly. "And I'm sorry. I'll always be sorry. But I caught Sophie. And because I caught Sophie, 643 other kids came home. I think maybe that's what you would have wanted. For your death to mean something bigger than grief." The wind picked up, scattered petals across the grave. "I'm okay now, Lily. It took 10 years, but I'm okay. I have Uncle David.
I have the foundation. I have a family of broken people who learned how to heal together.
And every time we find a missing child, every time we reunite a family, every time we refuse to let someone stay invisible, that's you. That's your legacy. Not the accident, not the loss. The lives saved because I learned that every second matters, and walking past isn't acceptable." He stood, touched the headstone. "I love you. I'll always love you. And I promise, I'll keep catching the ones who fall." On the drive home, Marcus's phone rang. Maya's voice, urgent.
We've got a lead on the Oregon cases. 3 children. Property in rural Washington. Brothers are moving on it now. Marcus, we might bring them home tonight.
"I'm on my way," Marcus said. Because that's what they did. Showed up. Refused to walk past. Saved the ones everyone else called invisible. That's the whole story. Not the broken wrists, not the trials or the headlines or the awards, just one simple truth repeated across 10 years and 643 lives. The most qualified person to help is the person who's there. Marcus had been there when Sophie fell. Reaper had been there when Marcus needed saving. Uncle David had been there, even when the system tried to keep him away. 300 Hell's Angels had been there when one child needed protecting. And now Marcus would be there for every child still waiting for someone to stop walking past them. Because invisible doesn't mean gone. It means nobody's looking. And Marcus Chen Morrison had built his entire life on one principle. Always look. Always stop. Always catch the ones who fall. That's how you change the world. One broken wrist, one caught child, one refused step past suffering. Every single time.